So today the league has officially announced the remaining part of the MLS season schedule, and that they also talk about when exactly Decision Day is going to be, and also the format of how Decision Day is going to look in terms of how games on Decision Day is going to be played. And they also released the format of the playoffs for this season playoffs, and it's kind of very similar to what the USL did with their playoff format last year, although there's a little bit of change in terms of that, which we'll get to in this video. But before I, of course, look at the article in terms of seeing how the remaining of the MLS schedule and also the playoff format is going to look, I have three quick things that I want to quickly mention. One, the Quakes are not going to make the playoffs. I mean, not that they had any chance of making the playoffs with the way that they've been playing the last couple of games, but once the schedule came out and I realized that we have to play 3 LA teams in the last 9 games, and also 3 Cascadia team, that is Portland and Seattle, and well, technically you could say 5 Cascadia team if you, of course, include Vancouver, and who would have forgot about Vancouver being a Cascadia team, especially we always tend to have a good friendly rivalry known as the Third Wheel Derby against the Whitecaps. Yeah, that is a very tough schedule, and that even if this is a team that is like last season, I doubt that we are going to get a lot of points out of that, and especially the last game of the season, and it by miracle that the Quakes are somehow still in the playoff push heading into Decision Day. They get to play Seattle on the road. Yeah, that same team that spanked 7-1 against the Quakes just a week ago, or technically 2 weeks ago. Yeah, that's the team we're facing on Decision Day. So, yeah, it's pretty clear that the Quakes had no chance, of course, making the playoffs. Now, the second thing that I want to talk about is that I'm kind of disappointed the fact that the Loons are not going to have the same amount of home games that they has on away games, and that by the end of this season, Minnesota will have 11 away games and only 9 home games. But I guess maybe the league will just kind of ignore our 2 away games as not really an away game, and that's why they kind of balance the fact that we have now got an equal amount of 9 home game and 9 away game if you not include the first two game of the season, because after all, everything seems like not really matter in terms of what happened in the first 2 games of the season, and now everybody's just talking about the MLS's back tournament and also the remaining part of the schedule after the tournament is over. And the third thing that I'll also talk about is that there is definitely going to be a lot of games in the month of October and also into early November. I believe every single team is going to play at least 9 games in a span of 33 days starting in October, and that is a very congested kind of schedule, and that I have a feeling we're going to have a lot of games where we're going to see something similar to what we saw in phase 1 and 2 of the MLS schedule, which is a lot of head coach are going to have to force to play their reserve squad, and they're going to have to force to rotate their squad, because there's just no way you can play the same team for all 9 games in the span of 33 days. And that something tells me we're going to have a couple of games where teams are just going to try to throw away those games, and that I think I'm going to invent a new term called the throwaway game, because it feels like, you know, when you are either playing a weaker opponent or you're playing against a stronger opponent, teams are going to feel like that's going to be a throwaway game, and that they're just going to play their weak squad and take their chances against the next opponent that they might feel like they have a good chance in terms of beating them. But without further ado, let us actually get into this article. So Major League Soccer has released the schedule and broadcast detail for the remaining of the 2020 season. It's going to be on FS1, TSN, and TV Sports. Oh wait, no, that's Decision Day. Decision Day 2020 is going to be on November 8th, and it's going to be on ABC, FS1, TSN, and TV Sports. The final 2 weeks of the regular season include Decision Day and will exclusively feature intra-conference showdown, which means that for the final 2 weeks, we are not going to have a game where an Eastern Conference team is going to be playing against a Western Conference team. They also put the penultimate weekend schedule up here. Oh wait, no, they put the national TV schedule for the penultimate weekend of the season. On Univision, they're gonna have the Texas Derby featuring FC Dallas versus Houston Dynamo on October 31st at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. ABC Sports and ESPN Deportes will have an Eastern Conference match, although didn't say which exactly is the Eastern Conference match is, and it's going to be on Sunday, November 1st, 3:30 p.m. Eastern. TVR Sports will have Montreal versus Orlando at 7:30, and TSN will have Toronto versus Inter Miami at 7:30, and Portland versus the Vancouver Whitecaps at 10 p.m. Eastern, which technically they said that is actually a home game for the Portland Timbers and not really an away game for them. But anytime when the Timbers play against the Whitecaps, it's going to be an extra home game for the Timbers because of the fact that the Whitecaps play in the same stadium as for the remaining of the season as with the Portland Timbers play. Decision day is going to be on November 8th, as I said. Blah, 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 blah. Will feature 26 teams. 14 Eastern Conference team will kick off in 7 simultaneous game at 3:30 p.m. Eastern before 12 Western Conference game kicked off in 6 simultaneous game at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. Okay, so this is kind of a little bit different, whereas in the past every single game kind of kicks off around the same time, where this time it's not the case, and that each of the conference will have a specific kickoff time. So yeah, at least that's kind of a good thing for me, because at least that I don't have to keep an eye on like all 15, or not 15, but all 13 games that is going to be taking place at the same time. And I remember every single year in Decision Day, I always have this problem with me trying to keep up with all 13 games at the same time, and it's just not possible in terms of doing that. And hence, that's why every single Decision Day, my review is always a little bit later than after the final game is over, because I need to, of course, look at some of the condensed match of the games that I wasn't able to catch. Let's see. On Decision Day, there's going to be flex schedule, will allow broadcast partners a chance to showcase the most compelling national audience. So they're going to, for ABC, they'll select an Eastern Conference game at 3:30 p.m. Eastern, while for FS1, they're going to select a Western Conference game at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. TSN will have the Red Bulls versus Toronto and Vancouver versus the Galaxy, while TVR Sports will have Montreal against DC United. In accordance with travel protocol, the Free Canadian team will continue to have US-based home games. Yeah, I don't really need to get to that, because I already mentioned how Montreal is going to be playing at Red Bull Arena, Toronto is going to play in Hartford, and Vancouver is going to be playing at Providence Park. No team will have the same opponents more than 4 times during the 2020 regular season. Now, this is big, because I know a lot of people complained the fact that there's just way too many games where you seems to play against the same team, and that I know there was definitely a rumor the fact that we're going to have another free El Tráfico or another free Cascadia Derby for the remaining of the season, but it seemed like maybe that's not going to be the case, and I'm glad that that's not going to be the case, because as much as I love to watch an El Tráfico and I love to watch a Cascadia Derby, there's a reason why those games are always tends to be the most exciting and the most anticipated game, because not only it doesn't usually happen a lot, because this is one of the chances out of the two, if this was a regular season, that both of these teams is going to play, but because of this revised regular season that we're in, those excitement and the anticipation of those games is kind of dropped down with the way that they seems to play almost every single day, and you kind of just gets bored after a couple of weeks, or even after a couple of months, where they just seems like they play every single day, and it doesn't really luster any kind of meaningful when both of these teams play, if they just played so many times in the past couple of weeks and months. Match detail will be announced on a later day for the 2 rescheduled games, Nashville SC versus FC Dallas and the Galaxy against the Seattle Sounders. Then they of course release the schedule by the club. Oh, by the way, the article that I'm reading right now, will leave a link in the description below, but you can always just go on MLSsoccer.com, and that's usually basically will have this article right on the front page of their league website. The MLS Cup playoff qualification. The MLS Cup playoffs will consist of single elimination match hosted by the higher seeds and follow a straight bracket format for the MLS Cup on December 12th. So MLS Cup is going to be on December 12th, although I think they already announced it a while ago that it was going to be on December 12th, which means that we are back to what it would always been in the MLS season, where the MLS Cup happens in December, although this I think is the deepest we have gone in terms of heading into the winter month where the MLS Cup is being played right now. And if this cup is going to be playing in an Eastern Conference venue, yeah, expect there's going to be a lot of chances that there is gonna be a really cold kind of MLS Cup unless they decide to play it in the daytime. 18 total club will compete in the Audi MLS Cup, 10 from the East, 8 from the West. So for the Western Conference, the top 18 qualify directly to round 1, while in the Eastern Conference, only the top 6 seeds will qualify directly to round 1, while the 7 and 10 seeds will each compete in a play-in match. And this is where I get to how this is very similar to the USL playoffs from last year, where I know last year when the USL Championship decided to extend their playoffs, where there's going to be 10 teams from each conference able to make it into the playoffs, they kind of have this kind of play-in round where the 7 seed take on the 10 seed and the 8 seed take on the 9 seed as the play-in round. Although the difference between this is, unlike how in the USL Championship playoff from last year where it seemed like both conferences are doing this, only the Eastern Conference is going to do this. And I guess the reason why they only do this for the Eastern Conference is that they probably know that the West is much better than the East, and that knowing the fact that the West gets fewer teams into the playoffs compared to the East, I guess it's only fair the fact that they allowed them to not have to go through that play-in rounds and just pretty much just go straight into the qualify, or just go straight into the bracket. And that, I guess you can say in an unsarcastic way, it makes no sense, the fact that they're going to have a play-in round if there's only going to be 8 teams. I mean, the numbers just doesn't make sense if that is going to be the case. Lowest seed will be lowest seed in the play-in winners will advance to face the number 1 seed in the East, while the highest seed play-in winners will advance to the number 2 seed in the East. I mentioned the fact that there's going to be... Yeah, I also just mentioned the fact that there's a single elimination game. So this is going to be similar to last year where there's no two-legged affairs. It's going to be single elimination for rest of the game, which means that if you want to have a possibility of a home game in the playoffs, you better be in one of those top 4 seed that will potentially get a home game, or in the play-in rounds you better beat the 7 or 8 seed so that you can at least get one home playoff game. Although I think this year, judging by the fact that most likely some of these games there's not going to have fans in attendance, or maybe just a limited fans in attendance in these playoffs, I doubt the fact that home field advantage is going to be as big as it is. I mean, we already seen so far this season where there's definitely seems to be more away teams that are able to get victory on the road compared to previous year, and it's no surprise. I mean, when you don't have any fans in the stands, away team is always going to get that advantage. The fact that it's just pretty much like they're playing in a neutral ground, and that home teams without some of their fans that is in the stands, they're gonna feel like this is just kind of like a training session that they're in, and they're not really getting that home field advantage from some of the fans that were able to root them on heading into this season. So yeah, I don't think home field advantage in the playoffs really matters this season as much as it is in the previous year. Although when you look at previous MLS Cup, it doesn't seem like home field advantage really matters that much, because we have seen before where the lower seeds are able to go deep into the playoffs, even though they have to play on the road for majority of their game. The complete playoff match schedule and the postseason TV schedule will be announced at a later date. The Audi MLS Cup playoff bracket is follow, and I'll show you a picture of that. This is how it looks. It looks like a black and white kind of thing. And for those of you wondering, am I going to do the bracket this year, yes, I will do the bracket, and this is not going to be like in the MLS's back tournament where I didn't do a bracket. The only reason why I didn't do a bracket for the MLS is back tournament is that, you know, they're not even playing in their home market, and that I just feel like with the way how things were in the MLS's back tournament, you know, doing a bracket probably won't work because I'll probably get my prediction wrong with a lot of them. But I am going to do the bracket this year, and something tells me I'm going to get a lot of them wrong because I'm never very good in terms of prediction in the first place, and that every time when I do my bracket, usually my bracket gets bust either in the first round or in the second round, or the team that I pick to win MLS Cup tends to fall short pretty much in every bracket that I'm able to do for the past couple of seasons. But yeah, there you have it. That is pretty much it for my video talking about the league announcement that they're going to have the rest of the season now being scheduled, and also release the playoff format. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of this, and that, you know, when you look at each of your team's schedule, do you think your team have a relatively easy schedule? I mean, there's no doubt that when I look at some of the teams in terms of their schedule, some of them are going to get an easier schedule compared to the other ones, but hey, what can you do? I mean, we're in a situation where it just seems like life isn't fair whatsoever, and that the imbalanced schedule is just unfortunately the way to go with how crazy this season has been and how destructive this season has been. But let me know in the comments below, what do you think of your team's schedule heading into all the way to decision day in early November? But let me know in the comments below, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.